Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. Today, I am joined by the great Vincent Venturella.
I don't know about the great. I'm here.
Well, yeah, it's early. We're looking at the Skaven Battle Tome, the one that I know is near and dear to your heart. How we doing?
We're good. We're good, buddy. I grabbed the wrong cards because I forgot what we were talking about. I'm not gonna lie. We had originally talked about doing Slaanesh, and that was still in my head, and that was what I was talking to you about beforehand. This army I'm much more positive about, so this is going to be a much happier show. Okay.
Yes.
I'm back on board now. Yeah, I've got deep thoughts on both of these armies, so that's fine. I'm ready. Let's talk about it, man.
Yeah, let's hit it. All right. Before we even get into this, the thing that I just want to hit really quick is how a couple of core rules changes have really positively impacted them, I would say.
Sure.
The 3-inch weapon range for everybody certainly improves some of the units that you're taking in big hordes. Oh geez, I had another thing that was
what was the other thing?
No longer having battle shock. No more battle shock to worry about.
Correct.
I think both of those are solid positives in the core rules for Skaven. Would you agree with me there?
Yeah. So I think it's important here that we lay down a little groundwork. Okay.
Yes, for sure.
So let's talk about the history of Skaven, right? This army's been around a long time, like a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it has played in a lot of different ways over time.
Yep.
Usually oscillating between, let's say, something focused completely on shooting. So there have been periods in Skaven's history throughout the edition when they have more or less been a shooting army. The idea being quite simple. You just had a bunch of Skaven chaff out front and then throw a ton of shooting behind them. There have been times where they have been much more mixed arms, and there have been times where they have been much more sort of melee board control spread out and have a lot of units that want to sort of be in the mix and be hard to kill engaged. Mm-hmm. I think clearly with this tome, they were trying to allow you to go all three roads. Now, how successful they were at that, we'll talk about as we get into it. But I do think they at least respected sort of the history of the fact that this is a complex army with sort of a lot of different styles of play.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it came out interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I will say this has been one of my favorite play experiences. So as I mentioned on my show, I've been maybe 20 games into it of, games in general. I've played Skaven 3 times, and I have had a ton of fun playing this army.
Excellent. Also, I think this is this third book in a row now with the same cover art. Am I correct?
I don't know. It's actually the third, but clearly we reached the mountaintop, so stop.
All right, so let's jam on into battle traits. You can set up units in reserve that will later pop out of Null Holes in your movement phase. They set up wholly within 6 of the Null Hole, more than 9 from enemy units. You get 1 Null Hole on the battlefield to start, and then with Splinters of the Verman Doom at the start of each battle round, you can toss another one onto the field. More than 9 inches from all enemy units, and more than 1 inch from all friendly units, and more than 3 inches from all terrain features and objectives.
Well, to be clear, you don't get 1 to start. You get 1 at the start of no.
Oh, interesting.
Nothing is giving you 1 to start, right?
Okay.
You're getting 1.
Yeah.
That you set up at the start of the first battle round. So you're effectively having 1, right? At the start of the game. So and we can go a while on Null Holes, okay?
Yeah.
This alone is a huge part of how you're going to play this army and how it's changed. So,
Yes.
like, obviously, for the past, since they introduced null holes as terrain, obviously these weren't around at the beginning of AOS, but you know, since they introduced null holes, we've had 3 of them, and their placement and stuff has been pretty essential to understand, like, to playing the army well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reality is, they you play them completely differently now. Like, I don't know if we want to deep dive null holes right now on the battle traits page, but I like, because we don't have the null hole scroll in front of us.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like the null holes are so integral to how this army is going to play. We should talk about them first, and I'll just jump down to that scroll.
I think that's a good idea, because it really is going to be a big deal. Okay. So let's just talk about null holes real quick.
Yep.
The fact that you can attack faction terrain now really changes the way that these things work. Like, it used to be, you would just kind of bury them in various places, either near objectives or on cross places of the board to enable your skitter leaps and other things like that. Obviously, units you put in reserve can pop out of your null holes, and so on. And the reality of the thing is, when the fact that they can be attacked now, yeah, it's above the spearhead. It's really annoying. Yeah. I hate the spearhead stuff at the end of this. Like, I like that they included it. I'm glad we all got our spearhead things for free. It's just kind of annoying to scroll through in the PDF. Yeah. The reality is, if you put it out there in any kind of significant way, your opponents are just going to, like, go charge that null hole and kill it. It has 6 health, right? And a 4 save. Like, it's very easy to lift. Okay. And it's only cover terrain. It's not even unstable. So they can actually end on your null holes. Like, those things, they can stand on top of that thing, which is weird, I think.
Yeah.
Because this should definitely be an unstable piece of terrain. I'll just say that. It does not let models sit on it well. The whole point of this was to, like, stop people from doing it, I guess, because very little of it is more than an inch tall. So that's why they didn't do it. So maybe I'd rather I don't know. Whatever the case, it's going to result in weird things in wobbly model syndrome. Let me just say that.
Yep.
Okay. It can do a little bit of damage when people walk across it. That's fine. That will somewhat scare them away sometimes, occasionally, but for the most part, people will just pile over top of them with most units, right?
Yeah.
Having a null hole around is really important, because it's what lets you use the endless vermintide. It's your recursion thing.
Yep.
Okay. And most of your units can be replaced. Your non-hero, because most of your non-hero stuff is infantry. Most. Obviously, you can't replace your hell pit abomination or stuff like that, but most of your stuff's infantry. And your tunnel through reality, right, is your movement phase. You get to pick a friendly Skaven unit that is not in combat and wholly within 6 of the terrain feature to beat the target. You remove the target from the battlefield and set it up again within 6 inches of another null hole. So we have to be in at least round 2, right? Yes. We have to have a second null hole, which is fine. Generally, you're not retreating at the top of 1, generally. So that's okay. But what I have found with these is, your first one you're going to do is more or less going to be burrowed somewhere in your line, in your home base.
Yep.
Right? Because you want to have a safe place to come back to. Winter Dave, yes, you absolutely can retreat out of combat and then jump through a null hole like 100%, as long as you can end wholly within 6 inches of it, right? That can sometimes be a problem depending on the size of the unit and the retreat and so on and so forth. But yes, it's a movement phase ability. You just have to not be in combat at that moment. Skaven are good retreaters, as we'll talk about when we go back to the battle tactics. So retreating is going to be a major part of your strat. But you have to be really careful with them, because if your opponent, you could put them out on the flanks, but, like, depending on where you put them, all you're doing is giving your opponent if you're not near it, if you're not guarding it, you just gave them a take their land battle tactic. They can go near your thing, and just not kill it, right? Just, like, make sure they don't have any enemies or any attackers really in unit to fight it. Like, keep one guy near it or something like that, and then they won't kill the thing. They'll take their land, and then they can just smash it the next turn. They can just go smash it up if they want, pretty easy. Like, you can't just throw them out there kind of in front of you. So that being said, I also have found like if you need to, you can just throw them out in front of you and make them like a thing that kind of blocks up the path, even though they can stand on it.
Yeah.
It can just be like additional thing that is in the way, but they'll more or less just pile over top of it. So for the most part, you want to have it be on the sides or kind of out of your territory if you can, but not near their units. So it's the strongest on scenarios where you're more tilted to one side. On if they deploy straight across, you have the weakest potential Null Hole setup. You need to watch where they go. And oftentimes you are just going to like drop one as an emergency effect to pull a unit out of combat, right? Like you'll drop it out there to the side, retreat a unit through it, and just assume it's going to get blown up in the next turn.
Yeah.
So it becomes a very different unit, a very different thing to use.
Yeah. Being able to just recur, set units back up at the Null Holes for just a command point at the end of your turn, though, I think that's got to be really strong.
It's a good ability, but that's why you have to have one burrowed in your home territory, so you have access to it, right? And like it costing a command point is not nothing, right? So you do want to pay attention to that because it is like power through will be the most rarely used command ability of the standard command abilities, because everybody's going to forget that they still need to save a command point and get to the end of their turn and have no command points left, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So this is in the same bucket since it's at end of turn.
All right. Let's head back up to the top. I feel like we've covered the Null Holes pretty well.
We've talked about them.
Yep. All right. Too quick to hit. You don't take any mortal damage when your Skaven infantry and cavalry retreat.
Yep.
So that's definitely strong. And then always 3 claw steps ahead. You pick a friendly non-monster Skaven that is not in combat and was not set up this turn. This is for enemy hero phase. They can make a normal move.
Mm-hmm.
How has that one been working for you?
It's one of the strongest abilities printed in battle traits across everything.
Yeah.
Across all armies.
That was definitely my thinking. Like just getting to like move twice with all of your stuff all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean 1 unit, but yes. It should be stated this actually does get interacted. There is a model we'll talk about that lets you actually enhance this ability.
Yep.
We'll talk to him about them later. I mean, this is a super powerful ability. I will say right now, my fear with this army, to be completely honest, is that it is going to become a shooting army. I do think the best build for this is a shooting build.
Yeah.
And 3 claw steps ahead is really good for that because it can help readjust your shooters in the enemy hero phase to get them where you want them. So,
yep. Absolutely.
But you'll use it for a ton of different purposes. It's utility in 10 cities. It's unbelievably powerful. It's really good.
Yeah. All right. Battle formations.
3 of these are good. It's that easy.
Yeah.
2 of them are really good. 1 is okay, like good-ish, and 1 is Garbo.
Yeah. So they're basically, they all have a similar ability that they're, targeting 3 friendly units from a particular clan, Scryer, Molder, Verminous, and Pestilence.
No Eshin. Eshin is much reduced in this book.
Yeah. And Pestilence is a little bit as well.
Yeah.
All right. So,
which is fine. They also have the crappiest battle formation. So how about that?
Yeah. So for Scryer, you roll a die for each targeted Scryer unit. On a 1, they inflict D3 mortal damage. 2 to 5, more power. Add 1 to wound rolls for shooting attacks. 6, more power. You get more power and add 1 to the Ren characteristic of the ranged weapons.
Yep, you sure do.
Default
choice. Default choice.
Yep.
I want to talk about a thing that's going on here. Okay.
Yep.
your targets with each of these are 3 units. So we need to think about what that means for army construction.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I will state in the Scryer one, it can be heroes.
Mm-hmm.
This is an important distinction, right? Now, I don't know how often you're actually going to choose a hero, but sometimes you will. Sometimes you will. And the fact that you only take the damage on a 1 compared to what we're going to talk about next with the Molder one.
Yep.
But with all of these, because it's 3 units, it really impacts your army construction. What this basically means is that in all cases, you need to make sure you have 3 good targets in your list that are from 1 clan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and the way that will work out cost-wise when you figure out, because this is very much a power pair army, the way that works out is that in every time you build your army, at least half your list, probably half plus a little bit, is going to be from 1 clan, period.
Yep.
Otherwise, you just won't have the targets to actually use your battle formation. So this actually very, very heavily dictates your army construction, right?
Yes. And with all of the Scryer high quality shooting that you have, this is definitely one that you want to lean into.
Yeah. I mean, it's super strong. Most of the time, you're going to end up with +1 to wound. +1 to wound is a great buff. Every so often, you'll take a little bit of damage, and every so often, you'll trip into the just super kill. And, you know, when you fire off super kill, it's incredible.
Yeah. All right, let's hit the dud.
One more thing to mention here, by the way. These bonuses are only for the rest of that turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So like when you're doing this off turn, you don't get the bonus, and you will shoot off turn if you're in the shooting build. You will shoot off turn all the time, every time. You have 1 less command point because you are always shooting off turn. Please continue.
Yes. All right. Our virulent procession. This is for pestilence. Each target, you make a pile-in move, and then you pick an enemy unit in combat with the target. Roll a d3, 2 up, do mortal wounds equal to the roll.
Yep.
Pass.
Like your dudes are made of paper. Like even though things will tend to survive combats, it's just you don't have the actual meat to take advantage of this.
Yep. And it's just not a lot of damage that it would be doing, even if you could. All right, Fleshmade Menagerie. This one is for Molder, and it only targets non-hero Molder units.
That's right.
You roll a die for each target, 1 to 2. You take d3 mortal damage. Ouch. 3, 4. You add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons until the start of your next turn.
Yes, this one's until the start. It is an important difference. Scryer is only during your turn.
Yeah.
Molder is harder to get. You have a higher chance of failure, right? But you also have a higher chance of getting the better bonus. Yep. But it lasts until the start of your next turn, which is a very meaningful difference in the efficacy of this bonus.
Yep.
Right.
And then 5, 6, you get the +1 attack and a 5-up ward until the start of your next turn.
It's incredible. So fun story about this. I played an all Molder, a Molder focused army. You're never all Molder, but whatever. I played this my first 9 rolls. So read that as the first 3 turns. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. I rolled 8 out of 9 1s or 2s.
Oh.
And I rolled the Rabbit Infusion is for in melee only. The only one I rolled, which is what I rolled. I didn't get the 5 or 6 at all. The 3 or 4 I rolled was on Storm Fiends, who I didn't want in combat. So the bonus was just so they got nothing. Great.
Awesome. All right. And then the Claw Horde. This one is for Verminous, and you just pick 3 targets, no roll involved. Add 1 to the Ren characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, again, this turn only can pick heroes. Actually relevant here, very much so, because you're often going to pick the Vermin Lord as one of the people who does this. Mm-hmm. The weakness to this, it's a really +1 Ren to just you can hand out as a really strong ability. The problem with this ability is that your most logical target you'd want to put this on, which would be your Storm Vermin, are not very good.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was pretty disappointed in Storm Vermin when I read that scroll.
Yeah, that it doesn't like they're too expensive for what they're doing, and so what you're often going to end up doing with this, like if you go Verminous, is giving your warlord, your vermin lord, sorry, a bonus rend and a couple units of clan rats, a point of rend. That's usually what it ends up meaning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not. I mean, it's not terrible. It's certainly better than the Pestilence one, but I feel like you're probably going to want to run Scryer or Molder most of the time because those are definitely the strongest bonuses.
Yeah, I do want to try at some point the like kind of all Verminous focused army because I do think there's something to be said for flooding the board. This army can flood the board like no one's business, and
Yes.
it just will regenerate huge portions of its army. And with the recall ability as well, it means you're actually very hard to put down. So at any rate, and with the prayers, you can actually get to some good stuff. We'll talk about the prayers because as usual for most of these armies, spells, they're fine. Prayers, they rule.
Yeah. The prayers. This one has a very good prayer in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Heroic traits, scurry away. If the unit's in combat, roll a die on a 3-up, it can retreat.
Yep.
That's a pretty standard Skaven-y thing to do.
Really strong because remember, combat phase abilities happen before any fights. So you're not, it used to be you had to actually do it, you'd waste an activation to retreat out.
Yeah.
Now you don't. They charge your hero and you just leave, right?
Right.
And you can give this to big guys. Like you can give this to your vermin lords so they can actually be getting out of fights that they don't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Downside, it's a 3-up, so it's easy to fail. And if you're trying to use them as bait and then you fail the roll, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Short-tempered is a passive. Add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for friendly Skaven units wholly within 13 of the unit.
Absolutely amazing on your Molder focus armies or your Verminous focus armies. In Molder especially, this is wildly good for reasons we're going to talk about.
Yeah. All right, and then skilled manipulator. While this unit is within combat range of a friendly non-hero Skaven infantry, this unit has a 5-up ward, and if you successfully ward anything off, it instead passes 1 damage to that infantry unit that they're next to.
Yeah, largely useless, but it's fine.
Yeah,
like, you're going to take either short-tempered or scurry away.
Yep, definitely agree with you there. Artifacts of power, Foulhide. End of any turn, heal D3.
Good on the big guys, good on the vermin lords, good on your bells and stuff like that. Certainly,
yeah,
that's where you put it on. The little foot people are all going to die, so fairly irrelevant for them, but good for the big things.
Yep. Skaven Brew. Once per game, you pick a non-hero Skaven infantry unit. Wholly within 13, you inflict D3 mortal damage on the target, then add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, good. I mean, obviously, as always, Skaven Brew has always been good. It's a once per battle ability. It's still worth it. The damage is generally irrelevant, and yet it can like do a lot of work. So yeah,
yes,
great.
Yeah, absolutely. Then the Warpstone Charm, you pick an enemy unit that this guy's in combat with, roll a die on a 3-up, subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn.
Yep. Guess what? Also really good. Again, great on the big guys. If you're doing like the Verminous strategy of the Rend stack, this is effectively another point of Rend. This is one of the things that can make the Vermin Lord Warbringer just... One of the cool things about the Vermin Lord Warbringer, if you're running in the Verminous build, is that he can effectively get himself to just like pure mortal damage.
Yeah.
Because he can stack so much Rend that they won't actually have any save. He can effectively turn a 4-up save a 3-up save into no save. So
yeah, for sure. So all these artifacts I think are pretty decent.
Yeah,
just
they all have purposes. Yeah, you're going to use all of them depending on your build. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. All right, spell lore. I have a feeling you're going to agree with me that the unlimited spell Wither kind of a miss.
It's bad. Any enemy targeting unlimited spell is bad. Now, I will say, depending on how you build, late in the game, if you have enough of your casters still alive, they can all just like use this. There is a strat to that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you keep like gray seers are generally hard to kill, period, because of guarded hero and things like that, like little gray seers on foot. Your bell can often be hard to remove because of how it's burrowed and what it's doing. If you've got a vermin lord that's still alive, like there is a strat to just like end of game, you just turn all three of them and laser beam somebody, right, and get 3d3 mortals out of it potentially. But it's very underwhelming as far as this goes.
Yeah. All right, Skitter Leap casts on a 6, and it does Skitter Leap things. You teleport a Skaven hero that's wholly within 13 of the caster.
Incredible and valuable and amazing as always. Skitter Leap has always been a rock star. It's still a rock star. It is a battle tactic making machine. It's good to have like extra little heroes that you can just throw around the board. So like when you're building your army, you're going to very much want to be thinking about that. But like, yes, is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Always a very good spell to have. Warp Gale. You pick an enemy unit within 18, and the target strikes last for the rest of the turn.
Yep.
Another solid.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because it's got an 18-inch range. That's why it's good. There's a couple of these similar spells floating around that are on 12-inch ranges, and those are bad because you just don't tend to be within 12 inches when you need to use the spell, but 18 is much more generous. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, it's that simple. Yes, quality.
Yeah. Now we get to the really good stuff.
Yeah, let me just start here. Why are the prayers so good? And why are they also so challenging? Okay, let's talk. I can sum this up real fast.
Yep.
The prayers stopped caring about whether or not you're targeting pestilence units.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the shooting match. Okay. You can just target Skaven infantry now. By the way, the vast majority of your army's infantry. Almost everything cares about infantry. It's why the Hell Pit is Garbo. Like, I'm sorry, he's a skip. Because he doesn't benefit from anything. You can't call him back. He like you read Skaven infantry in these rules already so many times. Okay. And it's like summonable in Soulblight Gravelord's Passbook, right? When you make all the rules care about one type of thing, a thing that isn't that type becomes a pass.
Yeah.
So like these prayers are incredible, right? Your base unlimited prayer is +1 to wound, and on an 8-up gives crit mortal. By the way, this is absolutely what I would be running in my Verminous focus strategy. 100% I would have a prayer. Like 40 clan rats who suddenly get crit mortal are going to do work, son. Okay. That is not an insignificant number of attacks.
All you care about.
Yeah, especially when I feed them Skaven Brute.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, because I don't care about D3 damage on them. They recur D3 damage at the end of D3 guys back at the end of every turn. So like you give them +1 rend, so their attacks that actually go through will have a chance to do something, right? And then you give them +1 attack, and now all your little dumb clan rats. So it ends up being like if you've got 40 guys, it's actually pretty reasonable to get most of those in combat with the 3-inch combat range. But let's be a little generous and say you can only get 30 in range. That's which is like very doable. That's 90 attacks with crit mortal. Okay. So not too shabby. On average, you're going to do about 15 mortal wounds straight out of the gate on that attack. Mortal damage. And then you're going to have probably 7 or 8 additional wounds they have to save against. So like and that, by the way, that's on like the chaffest of chaff who cares unit. So just an incredible prayer, especially being unlimited.
Yeah, that's it's really good. It's just really good. Bile Torrent is basically a horde killer at 13 inches. Roll a number of dice equal to models in the target unit. On a 5-up, inflict 1 mortal damage. On an 8+, you would inflict 1 mortal damage for every 4-up instead.
Yeah, again, I don't hate it in the right situation. I like having it in the clip. It's not going to be one you
Yeah.
go to often, but hordes will be a thing in this new edition, and every army has a horde killer. This is actually one of the best horde killers around.
Yeah.
Because it can go to a 4-up, because it's a prayer, so it can't be counterspelled or anything, right? It just makes it really, really strong. Again, you will be off turn praying a lot if you have the prayer guys in your army. One of the challenges of this army is you're so constrained on command points.
Yeah.
You will often like want to play to underdog because 5 command points will make you so strong. Like one turn running on 5 command points can actually be pretty meaningful. So if you can like undercut, like if you can play to underdog and be under them by like 2 points, it means you will catch up.
All right, and then Rabid Tough. You pick a friendly Skaven infantry wholly within 13. You subtract 1 from wound rolls that target that unit. On an 8+, you add 1 to save rolls in addition.
Yeah. Really good. Like stupidly really good. And I love that it's a 5-up, 8-up. Normally 5-ups go to 10-up for their mega pop. This doesn't. This stays on 8, which is wonderful. You really don't have a good porcupine in this army. That's one of the downsides. You really don't have a good porcupine. But a giant unit of clan rats that gets this on there and has the Bell of Dom floating around, which we'll talk about later, one of the best endless spells around.
Yeah.
And you get the popped version of this on, actually will negate a huge amount of damage that goes into it, especially if supported by the bell. Like it is very easy to get your opponent into a situation where like into your basic clan rats, they are neg 1 to hit your clan rats, neg 2 to wound your clan rats, which obviously still becomes neg 1, but it just means they can't fight they can't bonus their way out of the penalty.
Yep.
Right. And then +1 to save. In that situation, they will actually do shockingly little damage against your clan rats. By the way, those clan rats in that situation would also have a ward of 6-up. So
yeah. Yeah. So definitely really good. I feel like I would want a priest in pretty much every Skaven list.
Well, and that's tough. It's tough because they killed the Plague Priest on foot. I'm hoping that when we get the book, they actually give us our Plague Priest on foot back. Yeah. Because one of the challenges is it is expensive to get a priest in this army. Yeah. Like straight up your priest choices, okay, are either 340 points or 360 points. Yeah. Woof.
Yep. Yeah. It's rough. But I mean, both of those things also come with other bennies that are probably worth it too. All right, manifestations. The scrolls are way at the back somewhere, but they all cast on a 7. We can tuck that knowledge away for now.
Yep.
All right, getting into the real meat and taters. Thankful on Bone Ripper. His damage profile is not super exciting. But he's got his Terrible Madness spell cast on a 7. The target can't use commands, and in addition, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the unit. For every 6, inflict immortal damage on the target.
Yeah, Thankful is okay. I have played with him. He's nice that he's got a ward. He is a wizard too, obviously. Thankful could put anything in his regiment, which is an advantage for him.
Yes.
He's 360 points, so he is significantly down on points from where he used to be, which is great. And he does have a bonus to cast, but yeah. I think he's a skip way up more often than he's a take. He's usually a skip. He's just too expensive. You're not going to put this kind of points into him.
Yeah.
But cool thing, he does get both the projectors and the braziers now, which is fun.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Lord Screech the Vermin King.
Lord Screech, this one real quick? Go ahead.
So once per turn, he can pick an enemy infantry unit, roll a die on a 3+. The target can't use commands, and subtract an amount equal to the roll from the target's control score until the start of your next turn.
Yep.
Yep. He's got his dreaded 13th spell. You roll 13 dice. For every 5 up, you inflict 1 mortal damage on the target and can return 1 slain model to a friendly clan rat unit wholly within 13 of him. And then the 13-headed one, you pick one of the following effects to apply until the start of your next turn, and you can't do it more than once per battle, or like each one more than once per battle. Master of Dire Sorcery, add 1 to casting rolls for your Master Clan Wizards, wholly within 13 of him. Commander of Vermin, add 1 to charge rolls for all of your Verminous, wholly within 13. Power of Warp Tech, add 1 to hit rolls for shooting attacks made by friendly Scryer units when they're wholly within 13. That feels good. For Eshin, we add 1 to the Ren characteristic of melee weapons wholly within 13. And Bringer of Plagues, add 1 to chanting rolls for friendly Pestilence priests while they're wholly within 13 of him. And then Shaper of Fleshcraft, you heal D3 to all of your Molder units wholly within 13.
Yep. So again, this guy can take anything in his regiment. It's a very open regiment. The issue with this guy, okay, is obviously he's unique. It's the named Vermin King.
Yeah.
His abilities are strong, like no doubt, and he can refill clan rat units like pretty effectively with the combination of that and their own refill. His rampage is good, like it's just good. Subtracting 1 to 6 control score is really strong. The problem is he has to rotate through his things, and so it's really rare that you're going to actually be able to take advantage of all of them. Like you'll get to useless turns with his bonuses. But I do just want to highlight a couple of things. The +1 to casting rolls is pretty irrelevant because if you have him, he's so expensive. This guy's 430 points. You're not going to have many other casters. Like you just won't. You probably have like a Gracie on foot, so that's not doing a lot.
And he's only
yeah, which is a problem. The Verminous +1 to charge is like fine. Again, if you're running the Verminous strat, it's actually one of the better abilities because you generally only need one. You generally only need to make that big charge in 1 round. Does that make sense? So like that's fine. Just turn that on that round when you know you're going to need to do it.
Yeah.
The actual stealth most powerful ability on here is the Knower of Warp Tech, the +1 to shooting rolls.
Yeah.
Because these bonuses last until the start of your next turn.
Yeah.
If he's burrowed in the middle of all your shooters, when they shoot off turn, all of their own normal things they get that are bonuses to hit, like the Giselles get +1 to hit. They don't, do stuff, but that doesn't apply off turn. This does. So this keeps them on 3s. So for your sort of unleash shooty shoots, you actually stay at the +1 to hit, which is really relevant, right? But legitimately with this guy, nah, he's cool, he's fun. He's a no. It's way too many points for what you get out of him.
Yeah, he's the only Vermin Lord that I do not have constructed.
Sure.
Vermin Lord Deceiver. He is 8 attacks with crit mortals on his stiletto at 2 damage.
Yeah,
that's not too shabby. And Ren 3 for everything else that doesn't crit mortal. When you redeploy a friendly Eshin unit wholly within 13, anything 1 through 3 becomes a 4 instead. So we see that ability all over the place. And then once per turn in the combat phase, he has a rampage. If he's in combat, you roll a die on a 4-up. You pick a point on the battlefield within 13 inches. And within 1 inch of enemy units, remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again within 1 inch of that point.
Yeah. Okay. So this dude is a real sticky wicket. All right. Let me just explain why. He does everything I like to say that a unit is powerful.
Yep.
So if you watch the show on Wednesday, I define a powerful unit by things that break the rules of the game and the assumptions and cause traps for your opponents. He does all of that. His teleport out of the shadows, okay, is wild because he's in combat. You roll the die, right? And on a 4-up, he teleports somewhere away, okay? Yeah. By the way, the point you pick is just within 13. Okay?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be reset up wholly within 13. He can actually go 14 away from that because he has to be set up within 1 inch of that point. So like if they have burrowed heroes, you can like charge him into the front of a unit. They have heroes burrow behind. He rolls the die on a 4-up. He just teleports behind and we'll smash that hero. Now, the problem is it's on a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
Straight up. It's a coin flip. And if he doesn't get that, he's going to die. This guy's not a good horde fighter. He's also 410 points, and his regiments suck. He can only take Eshin units, Deathmasters, and Clan Rats. And you're just probably not going to have a lot of that stuff in most armies, is what it comes down to. So
your only Eshin unit now, basically just the
Night Runners.
Yeah, the Night Runners. I couldn't remember if it was Night Runners or Gutter Runners. Yeah, so that's pretty limited on what they can take.
Yeah. I would love him so much more if that Rampage was on a 3-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a little too random on a 4-up, especially for the number of points he is.
Yep.
Vermin Lord Corruptor. This guy is one of your priests.
He is.
Which is fantastic. And he is the carrier of the Great Plagues. So when you get an unmodified chanting roll of a 6 for any of your priests, you pick one of the following effects to apply. You pick an enemy unit within 13 for the Crimson Wheel Curse. For the rest of the battle, each time the target moves, inflict D3 mortal damage after the move ability has been resolved. The Never Plague, for the rest of the battle, you can reroll chanting rolls for friendly Pestilence priests. That is very good. And then Undulant Scourge, pick an enemy unit within 13 to be the target, inflict 2d3 mortal damage on the target.
Yeah. And his Rampage does some mortal damage and potentially gives him a ritual point, right?
Yeah.
Look, if you love Pestilence, if you're running an all Pestilence army, you're playing this guy. Okay.
Yep.
Like, no question. And he's a perfectly fine, valid part of a complete breakfast for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like otherwise, no. Like I'm not taking this priest. There's a different priest I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
Like I like the Great Plagues, they're cool. But it's, again, you could easily go a whole battle and never trip it off. But if you're in Pestilence, you'll take him and he'll be fine. He's good. He's good in that build.
Yep. The Warbringer. His stat line is a pretty important thing here. 7 attacks, crit mortal at 3 damage. Then 3s, 2s, Ren 2. Tyrant of Battle, pick up to 2 friendly Verminous infantry units wholly within 13. The targets can use all-out attack or all-out defense. In this phase, if that command has been used by a friendly unit this phase.
Yeah.
Like, not bad. Once per turn, army, end of any turn, his Rampage. You pick a damaged enemy unit in combat with this unit to be a target. Roll a die if the roll is less than the number of damage points the target has. Inflicted amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll.
Yeah. This dude only has Verminous in his regiment, and he has 360 points. As part of a Verminous build, I mean, he's absolutely essential. This is what I talked about. He's base Ren 2. It's quite easy using the Verminous battle formation to make him Ren 3. Then if he has the Warpstone Charm, you're effectively at Ren 4. Ren 4 on his normal hits plus crit mortal means basically everything this dude does is just going through, right?
Yeah.
Like this dude will just get there. So if he's still around, assuming you didn't run into a porcupine that kills him, he will absolutely just then add a kicker of basically an additional 6 mortal damage at the end of the round, right? So he actually can be incredibly damaging to units. a note on his little Tyrant of Battle thing, you still have to spend the command points.
Yeah, that is.
It's not like you just get to double dip it for free.
Mhm.
And so, like, okay, like,
yeah, there's
cool.
not many things that will let you double dip a command for free.
Right. I mean, I'd like him a lot better if he had Bastion Carthalos' ability. So, you know, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. All right, the Warp Seer. Not really exciting damage profile. He can divine the future while he's on the battlefield. Add 2 inches to the distance friendly units can move when they use always 3 claw steps ahead.
Yep. He sure can. Real good.
His Rampage, you pick an enemy unit to be the target that he's in combat with. On a 4-up, it strikes last. He can throw his Scry Orb once per battle. He can't use Divine the Future anymore. You roll a die on a 2-up, you inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. I don't like, maybe in the last battle round or something he'll do that.
Yeah, he'll do it at the end of the fight when it's fine. Like you don't need the extra 2 inches at the end of the fight. You'll just do it and then basically do 2 to 6 mortal damage to clean something up. It's fine.
Yep. And then his spell, Tectonic Splintering, you pick an enemy unit within 18. So picking an enemy within 18, already promising. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for the target to a minimum of 1.
That's right. Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. He's a wizard 2. He's just doing a lot of good things. His regiment can include anything, like anything. He's wide open. He adds that 2 inches to your 3 claw steps ahead is like wildly strong. He has a built-in strike last, so he can combine with other units to where you need to fight in a really interesting way. Yeah. His spell is really good for keeping things off of your shooting units, and it's got a heck of a range. Like, and he's only 340. He's like the cheapest Vermin Lord for reasons I can't fully comprehend, because like certainly in melee he's basically worthless. I mean, he's okay. Like he can go do some damage to small units or whatever, but like, who cares? But who cares? That's 100%.
You're not bringing him for that.
You don't bring him for that. This dude is a utility machine. He makes a lot of your stuff better. Like, this guy rocks. I'm here for this dude. At 340 and a wide open regiment and tricks. Yes, let's go.
Yeah, all about this guy. All right, our humble gray seer on foot. He can give himself a 3d6 casting roll, dropping the lowest. Unless he rolls a 13, then rolls successfully cast but can't be unbound, and then he inflicts D3 mortal damage on himself.
Yep. Now, obviously, people will probably lament the reality that this guy used to be a double caster and now he's a single caster or whatever. Who cares? He's 120 points. He again has a wide open regiment. You can build anything with him. He can take anything.
Yep.
So great. Including, by the way, your overclaws. I should state that you do have these overclaws, which is just your claw lord and your death master. Those are your bonus heroes in this army. And like, he's just cheap as chips, and you know, he's an effective caster. The fact that he can roll 3d6, right? Is actually just stupidly strong.
Yeah.
Right? And even if he rolls a 13, he doesn't explode himself anymore. He just takes D3 damage. Like, okay, so what? Yeah. The fact that you're rolling 3, taking the highest, means that, like, for the most part, you are getting your spell off. He's great to get your endless spells out. He's great to make sure you get the key skitter leap when you need it. Like, yep, he's good.
Absolutely.
He will be a hero in many, many lists. That easy.
Yep. Another one that you're probably going to see in a lot of lists, I think. Yeah. Each time a friendly scryer unit wholly within 13 uses covering fire, you don't subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made as part of that ability.
I'm sorry, what?
So I just get to shoot off turn with no penalty. Sweet.
This isn't just one unit.
Yeah, it's all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like everybody who's around him within 13. Okay. It's so good. So no matter who you're shooting with, he can pop it off. Now, again, you'll never shoot with more than one, blah, blah, blah. Covering fire you only do use one unit. But my point is, it just makes him so much easier to position, right?
Yeah.
He just sits in the middle, floats in the bubble. Oh my God. Yes. The Arch Warlock is 170 points. He can only take Scryer units. That's fine. Who cares?
He's your guy that gets your scryer units in a regiment. Sweet.
That's correct. Importantly, he's the scryer hero, and like one of the keys to all the scryer war machines and weapon teams is that you can only take one in any non-scryer heroes regiment. Like that's this interesting other little caveat. So this dude can just load up all of them. At 170, he's expensive. But he still can do some fun little things in combat, by the way. He's like not bad. I miss his little warp stone tokens where you can make him into Superman. But like he's got his shots are actually perfectly fine, like his Ren 2 shots. He and that ability is so good. He's great. He's great. Again, as part of a scryer focused, like I'm gonna go shoot list, absolutely positively must be there.
Yeah, and very, very good at 170 points.
Hold on. We can't leave him behind. I got one more thing to say on him, Paul, real quick.
Okay.
It is a crime that his save is a 4-up and not a 3-up. I will be lodging a complaint with The Hague for a war crime that has been committed. When this book comes out, he better be back to a 3-up. That's all I'm saying. This is a rat in power armor. It was our 1 3-up save. Get 3-ups. Justice for the Arch Warlock. Okay, I'm done now.
All right. So our new sculpt Warlock engineer, I feel like he's another solid one. When you use a shoot ability with his Warlock musket on a 2-up, you set the damage characteristic to 3 for the rest of the turn, and on a 1, you inflict D3 mortal damage to himself. And 1 per turn in your shooting phase, you pick a visible enemy hero to be the target. Your Warlock Jezzails, wholly within 13, can target it and ignore the guarded hero ability entirely.
Well, for picking the target,
yes,
you still have the -1 to hit. Okay.
Yep.
So that is a really important distinction. Okay. So like now it doesn't actually matter because when you do this, when you use this, first of all, it's only your shooting phase, so your covering fire doesn't work, blah, blah. But when you do this, what you're going to do is you're going to do this with your 6-pack of Jezzails, obviously, because that's what the target is meant to be. And you're going to take them in 6 and they're going to have +1 to hit base because they didn't do the things that don't give them +1 to hit. Okay. And then you're going to spend 1 of your points to all out attack them, which will mean you counter out the guarded hero penalty, which will mean click, click, boom.
Absolutely.
Okay? And if they're in a round where they have the +1 to rend, ooh.
Yep.
Yeah. It's real good.
It's going to be some dead heroes.
Yeah. This guy's 150 points. He can only take scryer stuff in his regiment. That is expensive. You're only taking, I mean, it's probably fairly obvious, but just for the sake of it, you're only taking this if you have a 6-pack of Jezzails, if you're running that shooting strat. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, Warlock Bombadier. His explosive payloads, you add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's shooting attacks when they target an enemy unit that has 10 or more models. That's just on his Doom rocket, and then more Doom. You use it when you declared a shoot ability for this unit. It was not set up this turn, and it has not used a move this turn. You roll a die on a 2-up. The damage characteristic for the Doom Rocket becomes D3+3 for the rest of the turn. On a 1, he takes D3 mortal damage to himself.
Yeah, this guy's really interesting, actually. So if you're going hard scryer shooting, this guy might actually find a place in your list. You wouldn't think so, because he's just literally a damage guy. He doesn't do anything else. These guys aren't wizards anymore. The Bombadier and Engineer aren't wizards anymore. But that Doom Rocket is actually like not to be slept on. It's an 18-inch shot, which is what you want to see. That's quite reasonable. It's a little shorter, but it's reasonable. It's anti-infantry, which is good. There will be a lot of infantry. You can give him the bonus, same as any other scryer unit, as I mentioned, right? Yeah. So he can very easily be on a 2 up to wound, right?
Yep.
And 2 up to wound, 2 rend, D3+3 damage. And if you target a big enough unit, he's +1 to hit. So like it becomes very reasonable that this guy's 2 shots on 3s, 2s, rend 2, damage D3+3. And that's actually quite good range damage out of a dorky 130-point hero. So depending on what your shooting profiles look like, he can actually do work for just a little dork.
Yeah. And the model's awesome.
The model is truly awesome. Yes.
All right. Storm Fiends have more weapon profiles than anything else I have seen so far in this edition. Holy good God. They kept all of their weapon options being the same way. For his Grinder Fists, if he takes Grinder Fists, he can Tunnel Blow and include any other units armed with the Grinder Fists, and then set up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from enemy units. So he can just tunnel himself and somebody else. Then his Shock Gauntlets, each time an attack made with the unit's Shock Gauntlet scores a critical hit, the attack scores D6 hits on the target instead of 1 and make a wound roll for each.
Yeah. He has crit D6 hits instead of crit 2 hits. I don't know why, like, they just didn't want to introduce a new weapon ability, but that's fine. That's what it is. It's just crit D6 hits.
Yep.
Storm Fiends are okay. Their shooting range is much reduced because of the wind launchers going down to 15 inches. But, they are still Rend 2 and stuff. They are both Molder and Scryer, so they can actually play double duty in either one of those lists. You'll build them, you'll kit them much more with the melee build if you put them in the Molder thing, since the Molder bonuses are combat focused. Yep. And you'll use the shooting as incidental damage. Yep. You'll kit them ranged if you want them for a Scryer build. I mean, in a Scryer build, they can do work. Again, +1 to wound and +1 rend is really strong on these guys. Like most of these guys are wounding with their shooting attacks on 3s and 4s. So going to 2s and 3s is really, really good. Going to rend 3 is wild. They're 260 points for 3. You don't get a huge return on your wounds. I don't know if I'm truly in love with them. I actually like them better in a Molder build than I do in a Scryer build. Is my honest answer. But they can also be recalled. They are infantry. Yep. So if you take a pack of 6, you can get back, or even just 3, you can get back 2 or 3. So it's not the worst. They're fine. Is my answer. I don't think we'll see spammy lists of this like we used to.
Yep. This Warp Lightning Cannon is one that I have seen people talk about spamming.
No, that would be really dumb.
Yeah, I agree. So it's a 20-inch range Warp Lightning Blast, hits on a 4-up, and then all of your successful hits do a mortal damage. And then you can overcharge him if you have a friendly Scryer hero in combat range with him, and you add 6 attacks to the Warp Lightning Blast, so it becomes 2d6 plus 6. And then any rolls of a 1 on that inflict D3 mortal damage on himself. Where are you sitting on this one?
Okay, so important things to note here. This thing can benefit from all the +1s to hit, and that will radically increase its damage output. Okay. Yes. Because when it hits on a 3 versus hits on a 4, I mean, every hit is just a mortal damage. Okay.
Yep.
This is the only ranged mortal damage in the game. This is it. This is the one.
Yep.
It is an expensive thing. It can get shut off very easily if you don't protect it. You have to protect it like crazy because people will come for this thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's 180 points. But it has to have a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Someone asked Vince to release the dogs. Sure. That's my wife is telling me to release the dogs. I'll have to stand up and go release the dogs. The issue with this is it will kill itself. So on average, if you can give it +1 to hit, which is not hard to do in this army.
Yep.
It does not take the scryer buff at all. So it's in taking it, it's not one of your 3 units because it doesn't need the scryer buff.
Right.
Right. So you're never targeting this with it. If you give it +1 to hit and it's within combat range of a dude, which is not hard, you're gonna have some scryer hero who can stand near this thing and babysit it.
Mm-hmm.
It will on average do 10 mortal damage to what it shoots, and it will kill itself in 2 rounds.
Yep.
Okay. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like 9.5. I'm rounding up, but still figure 9 or 10 mortal damage you're getting out of it. So basically you're paying 180 points to get 18 mortal damage, or if you want to be conservative about it. That's what this thing does.
Yep. Which feels pretty good. I mean, that's certainly
it's a 20-inch range.
Yeah, 20-inch range, all mortal damage is really solid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think you take like a whole bunch of these, but certainly one.
No, this is a dumb thing to spam. Your army will evaporate. You can't protect them. These things get shut off so easy if someone gets near them, and then they just die. Okay. Yeah. So like, no, 1 is a very good part of your balanced breakfast. I'll be right back. I'm going to release the dogs. I'm just literally standing. I'm moving that gate. That's right.
Release the hounds. Excellent. Welcome back. Now I can say welcome back because your headphones are actually on. Yeah. All right. The hounds have been released. Mm-hmm. Globadiers, formerly Scryer Acolytes, now Acolyte Globadiers again. Didn't their model get discontinued? Pretty sure it did.
Yeah.
So presumably that means we're getting new sculpts.
One assumes. Who knows with anything in this book, dude? Like the problem with reviewing this at all is that like, aren't we going to get a book really quick with these guys? And then like, probably. I assume the book is going to feel a lot like the index, so they probably won't do huge changes. But like, what is going on here? These guys are 130 for 5. They're recallable with your Null Hole thing. They are now a weapon team, which means they're limited. You can only take 1 for non-scryer heroes. But they do go invisible with clan rats, which is actually really useful. So you can actually like huddle them near clan rats, and then they just can't be targeted, which is great. And they do quite a lot of damage to infantry. Like they are legitimately scary. A unit of 10 of them hovering near your clan rats is potentially making 10 shots at. Now, if they get hit by they can take the scryer buff. Okay. Yeah. But if you roll the 1, it really hurts because these guys are like, fragile. But they are 2 health dudes now, which is interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
They've been 1 health guys like forever and ever. But they can take it, and then they'll go 3s, 2s, Ren 2, damage D3 +1 against those infantry units. So they actually are worth a lot of damage. They're just very, very, very fragile. But they can shoot in combat, and not that you'll ever live to do that, but you could.
Yeah. Yeah, on a 6-up save, that's
these guys will die very fast.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of the Acolytes. They're interesting. They're definitely a lot different than the last book.
The 10-inch range is what hurts because you do have to get them close. But the key is you really do just like put them in a unit of like clan rats, basically like behind the clan rats, make sure there's a 3-inch gap.
Yep.
And they just march up together and hurl over the top. Like that's really what it is.
Yep.
it's a perfectly fine sort of like strategy. Yeah, they're decent. They're decent.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because those old models are ugly. Give us the new models.
Yes. All right, Doom Wheels. I know this is one of your favorites historically.
It is. It is.
All right. They move 2d6 plus 7 inches. 6 attacks, 4s, 3s, no rend, 1 damage, plus 1 damage on the charge. Warp bolts are d6 shots, and they can shoot in combat. Rolling Doom. This unit can move a distance up to its move characteristic. This unit can pass through other models and the combat ranges of enemy units, but it cannot end a move in combat. Then pick up to 3 enemy units that this unit passed across during that move to be targets. Roll a d3 for each. On a 2+, inflict mortal damage equal to the roll.
Yeah.
So they do what they feel like they should do. They can run over stuff.
Yep. Yeah, this thing's good. The Doom Wheel's good. It is 140 points, which is cheap as chips for what you're getting here. It moves an average of 14 inches, which is actually quite good in the modern sort of world. It doesn't do much in melee, I will say. So you do have to watch out for that. But its shooting attack is perfectly strong. Again, it can take I keep saying this, but it can take the scryer buff. So it becomes like the key is it's not going to be your primary one, but as the game goes on, you want to make sure in your army, you have more than 3 units that can take the buff. Because guess what? Things are going to die over the course of the game. And then your battle formation ability starts getting weaker and weaker. So like having units that can actually take the buff is good. Extra units. It still shoots in combat. I mean, D6 attacks is extremely swingy. That's the problem. You will have rounds where this thing, it will just like claw clean and rounds where it doesn't. It's a good mobile piece to actually like start out on an edge.
Yeah.
Because mathematically it can do things like take the flanks really well.
Yeah.
Because it's base move, like you need to be able to move 9.1 inches reliably to do take the flanks. Right. Yeah. And, this moves that far in every case except Snake Eyes. So like the turn you roll Snake Eyes and fail your battle tactic, I'm sorry, but it's a 1 in 36 chance to not complete a battle tactic in most scenarios. So, okay.
Yep. All right. Giselles.
Straight murder. Liquid hot sex. These guys will be in every list. 6 Giselles is where you start, except no substitution. We're back, baby. These things are grotesque. They are probably too cheap. They are 3 for 150 points. They are infantry. They are recallable. You will move them off turn to bring them into position and then counterfire with them. This will be your counterfire unit basically universally. They completely easily go to 2 shots each on 3s and 2s. It is not hard. It is basically what they do for a living. They have a 24-inch range. Crit auto wound is perfectly fine. They don't need they don't need it. Again, they will sometimes trip into Rend 3 because of the ability. You will always use your Scryer ability on this unit. And so 3s, 2s, Rend 2, damage 2, or Rend 3, damage 2. 2 shots each. So a unit of 6 makes 12 shots. Yep.
Yeah.
Death.
These guys murder stuff. Absolutely. In 24-inch range is now a very long range in this edition. That's about as far as I have seen. Correct.
It's a super long range in this edition. Yeah, it's crazy. So these guys are awesome. New models are great. Like A+ all around.
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
Include. The only time I don't take them is if I'm doing again, if you want to be really heavy into some clan. Which is fine.
Yep. All right. And then Warp Fire Throwers, their hidden weapons team. They do their 2d6 shots on 2s and 4s, Rend 2, 1 damage, and they shoot in combat. And they're a weapons team, so they hide with your clan rats. I feel like these aren't that exciting.
No, they're cheap at 90 points, which is nice. That is a cool thing. But honestly, they're okay at best. Like all the flaming weapons are fun because they hit on 2s and wound on 4s, which is a funny thing.
Yeah.
The problem is there's just like extremely random what you get out of them. The range just isn't that good. They're a skip. Like they're cheap, which is nice, but I'd probably rather spend the extra 40 points and just take 5 bombadiers if this is what I'm going for. You're gonna get more out of them.
Yep. Rattling guns, 15-inch shots, 3d6 attacks, force 4s, rend 1 damage, crit 2 hits.
Again, they're fine. It's like fine. The rattling gun's 100 points, which is too much. Like for this thing, you just don't get good damage out of it. They have no overcharge or anything anymore. So on average, you're going to make 10 shots. You're going to hit with 5. You're going to wound with 2 or 3. They're going to save 1. You get like your crit 2 hits gives you a couple extra hits. Sorry, you're going to hit with you're going to make 10 shots. You're going to hit with 6.5. You're going to wound with 3. They're going to save 1 or 2, so you get like 1 or 2 damage out of them. It's just okay, cool.
Yeah. Not worth 100 points.
And you're never giving your weapon teams the scryer buff. That's the problem.
Yep. Doom Flare, 2d6 attacks, 3s, rend 1 damage, infantry, anti-infantry rend +1, and charge +1 damage. If the unit charge this phase, you roll a d3 on a 2+ inflicted amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. I feel like this is another one that's like very It's 80.
No, I love this guy. It's stupid that he's this good. He shouldn't be this good. Like this is such a dumb model, and it should not be this good. But it is. It's really good. Yeah, he's 80 points. I've seen people joke about spamming this thing, and I think that's completely stupid. But like he's just not going to get much in the way of crackback because he's such a tiny little base. And again, on the power per square inch calculation, this guy's off the charts. So he makes an average of 7 attacks on 3s and 3s, rend 2 because you're going to put him into infantry. I say all this, keep in mind things like Nighthaunt are a nightmare for this army, because like they're a nightmare for basically every army because they're one of the best armies. But all the weapon abilities basically just shut off against Nighthaunt. Right. So like all your infantry stuff is just garbage, all your anti-infantry. But anyways, against most armies, he's going to come in and be 3s, rend 2, damage 2. So he does some mortal wounds on the way in and then makes a lot of attacks. He won't suffer much in the way of crackback. He's 4 health with a 4-up save. So like it's actually reasonable that they'll only dedicate like 2 or 3 models to attack him. Yeah. Even with a 3-inch range because they probably want to be fighting. You're going to charge him with something else. He's not going in alone, obviously. And it's actually pretty likely that you can just make him a second activation and he'll live. So I don't hate him. At 80 points, he's like perfectly reasonable. And actually, he's a super sneaky choice for your other unit to do the take the flanks because he's so cheap and he's D6 plus 8 inches. That's actually a pretty good move. It means he moves 9 to 15 or 9 to 14 inches. So like if you run him turn 1, right? Because you're not going to charge with him turn 1. He automatically clears the 9-inch line. Yeah. So he's the cheapest chips way to get a battle tactic turn 1.
All right. Plague Claw catapults. Another 24-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s, 2s, rend 1, d6 damage, anti-infantry +1 rend. Each time this unit uses a shoot ability, if all of its attacks are targeted at the same enemy unit, which why wouldn't they be? You roll a die. If the result is equal to or less than the number of models in that enemy unit that were slain by this attack during this phase, the enemy is striking last.
Yep, this is actually really, really good. So this is 150 points. It's really good. It will you should put most of it in your like if you're doing a scryer list or a light scryer list or something like that, this is actually a great part of your balanced breakfast, even though it can't take the scryer bonus buffs, it doesn't need them.
Yep.
Because the die you roll has nothing to do with how much damage this thing does. It has to do with how much damage they've suffered this by attacks. It is by attacks made by this unit's Plague Claw catapult this phase. It's still worth it just to get the strikes last on them. Like in general, it'll be rend 2. It's a very swingy damage, but against a lot of armies that you'll see out there, things like LRL, things like cruel boys and stuff like that, this can actually be really, really good to get strike last on things. Now, anything that's 2 attacks is questionable. Let me just say that. But at 150, I think he's a sometimes include. Like you'll see him in some. If you're going like ultra heavy shooting, this is actually a really good choice.
Yeah. All right. Plague Priest on Plague Furnace. This guy is going to come up a lot. 15 health, 4-up save, Ward 5, Priest 1. He has a whole bunch of melee attacks that are all crit auto wound except for the Crushing Bulk. You subtract 1 from ward rolls for enemy units while they're within 6 inches of him. And all of your friendly Pestilence unit have a 6-up ward while they're wholly within 6 of him.
Yeah, he's all right. He's not bad. He's probably the priest I would take right now if I want a priest. It's a shame that it's only Pestilence units to get the ward, sadly. Yeah. But his damage is okay. It's like seriously, it's okay at best. That's being generous. But it's a big thing on a 4-up, 5-up that is a priest, and priests in this army are in short supply. This is the cheaper priest. Because this thing's 340 compared to the 360 for the Vermin Lord. Much less mobile, but still. The Corrupting Influence is a really powerful thing to anchor your line because -1 to ward rolls means 6-up shut off and 5-ups become 6-ups and become pretty worthless. It's just good. So, yep.
Yeah. So solid choice. Between this and the Vermin Lord Corruptor, those two are probably going to show up in a lot of lists just because those prayers are so strong.
Yeah, and like it's rough. I think that like you'll either have a shooting list that you don't see any of this stuff in because you don't need it, or you'll see some more melee focus lists. Like Molder and Pestilence work pretty well together, honestly, in this, because all of those prayers are amazing on your Molder units. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, into the little guys, Plague Monks. They're throwing 2 attacks each. 4s, 5s, no rend, 1 damage, crit auto wound, and they explode on 6s when they die.
Yeah, this is your actual cheapest bodies in the army now. Okay.
Yeah, there was 130 for 20.
140. Yeah. So they're 140 for 20. They're much more restricted on who can take them, obviously, as far as regiments go, because they're a Pestilence unit, and a lot of people can include clan rats. They do about the same damage as clan rats. They do have a worse save, and they don't regenerate. They die much, much, much easier for various and sundry reasons. But if you're like, I don't tend to favor them, is my honest answer. But like, if you are running a Pestilence heavy list, you will be surprised by how much damage they do, just because of both these and clan rats have crit auto wound, which is meaningful when it comes to just the volume of attacks. But they're okay. They're effectively just the cheapest pile of bodies you can get if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, which quantity certainly has a quality all its own in this army. All right, Mr. Claw Lord. While he's damaged, he adds 3 to the attacks characteristic of his Warpforged Blade. And gnash on their bones when a friendly non-hero Verminous infantry unit that has not used the fight ability this turn and is within range of this unit's combat range to be the target. Target can be picked to use the fight ability immediately after the fight ability used on this unit has been resolved. So he's a chain fighting activation guy.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean, he's a bonus hero, so he doesn't take up a drop, which makes him more interesting. Yeah. But like he really doesn't do much. I mean, when he goes to 9 attacks, if he somehow gets damaged and lives, like 9 attacks is very funny with this dude. But he's a skip. You just like, I'd rather spend the points elsewhere is what it comes down to most of the time, which is a shame.
Yep. Absolutely. Clan Rats. 2 attacks, 4s, 5s, no rend, 1 damage, crit auto wound. You return D3 slain models to the unit at the end of the turn.
End of any turn, yeah.
Yeah. End of any turn. So that's a lot of recursion on these guys.
It is. These guys are great. Clan rats are great. They're 160 for 20 of them. You can actually get 40 wounds in the unit. 40 wounds is the max number of wounds basically outside of Ogre Gluttons you can achieve in a single unit in 4th edition. Their attacks will actually do some amount of damage because of crit auto wound. You think they would do nothing, but it will. Lots of things are on 4-ups, and they'll just like heroes actually are pretty stupid to charge into these guys. They will tend to just kill heroes, just pull them down through weight of dice. But they're great. They're bodies that regenerate. Fantastic. And again, worst case, if somebody does kill them all out, you call back half the unit. Like getting 20 back is a great refund.
Yeah, absolutely. Storm Vermin. Oh, the disappointment.
They want to be your porcupine unit. They're just not. They're on a 4-up base, which is fine. They have anti-charge +1 rend, but they have no tricks to survive. And they're 10 for 140, which is just way too expensive for this unit. They are not that elite.
Absolutely. Just not. They need to come down quite a bit.
Yeah, like I don't care about the ward of 5-up near the heroes. They don't need to be bodyguarding my heroes. Like, okay, cool, thanks. They're a skip.
Yeah. Rat ogres got getting new models. They're getting a bit of a glow up, I'd say. 1 in every 3 has got a warp fire gun. Doing 2d6 shots, 2s, 4s, rend 2, 1 damage. And it shoots in combat. So that's not nothing, certainly.
Yep.
It's probably going to put out more damage than your opponent's going to expect it to. Then they all have their claws, blades, and fangs. 5 attacks, 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage 2. In any combat phase, you can inflict D3 damage on the unit to add 1 to the attacks characteristic of their melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
Yep. They're crazy good.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to say. They're crazy good. They have to pick their target a little bit because of the rend being only 1, but man, they're crazy good.
Yeah, especially with the extra buffs that you can get from Molder.
Yeah, they're 3 for 170. It's completely worth it. I do miss their 6 wounds, RIP, but that's okay. 12 wounds for 170 on this number of attacks. It's very easy to get them to like 6, 7. Obviously to get 6, but to get 7 attacks. And that's just an obscene number of attacks. They take the Molder buff incredibly well. If they trip the 5-up ward, it's like this unit becomes very hard to move around. So, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely really like these a lot. They're I always wanted them to be better in the previous edition, and I feel like they're in the right spot now to take them quite often.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Master Molder. In your charge phase, you can pick another friendly Molder unit in his combat range to add 2 to their charge rolls for the rest of the turn.
Yep.
Very good. And then end of any turn, he can pick another friendly Molder unit wholly within 13 of him to be the target, and it heals 3.
That's right. So, okay. We need to talk about an important rule in this edition that I don't think most people have caught into.
Yep.
So here on this, this guy's 100 points, but he's not a bonus hero, which is kind of unfortunate because he's going to be a drop, right?
Yeah.
And he is made of paper and will die very easy, and is not a wizard or a priest or anything like that. But here's an important thing, Paul, that I don't know that if maybe you caught this, maybe you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, you can declare a charge with people at any range. There's no cap.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody could be 24 inches away from you, and you can declare a charge against them. Like in other words, you don't need an enemy within 12 to make a charge.
Yep.
To roll the charge. This is really important for Iron Jaws because the pigs can be charging all the time, even if there's no one near them, and they still get the momentum.
Yeah.
Okay. But importantly, we saw earlier the general ability to get +1 to charge, right?
Yep.
From off the heroic trait. This guy can add +2, so your unit can be +3 to charge. Mm-hmm. And so even if people are outside of 12 inches, you can still charge them.
Yep. You can hit them from downtown with these guys.
Yeah, +3 to charge is a huge bonus to charge.
Yeah, it is.
And so, like, even if somebody's 13 inches away and thinks they're safe, you pop the 10, bingo, bango, you're there and in combat. The problem with him is he's a drop. If you're running heavy Molder, which is a perfectly viable sort of melee Steam roll list,
Yes.
you will have him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's if you're going heavy, well, he also unlocks all the Molder stuff.
He does. He does. I mean, plenty of the other people do as well. The problem is we still don't have a Molder or Vermin Lord.
Yeah, which very disappointing. Hell Pit Abomination. As we said before, he doesn't get like any of the buffs. The usual too horrible to die. When he dies, you roll a die on a 1. He's really dead. 2 to 4 rats emerge. Roll a d3 for each enemy unit in combat. On 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. And 5/6, it's alive. He returns and heals d6.
And then we'll inevitably heal another d6 since he heals d6 at the end of every turn.
Yep.
So he'll get himself back up to some degree. Yeah, he's a skip. He's 270 points, way too much for what he's doing. He's still slow and he's still on a 5 of save with no ward. He'll just die.
Yeah.
And then you will roll a 1 through 4 and be sad.
Yep. Absolutely. Deathmaster. This guy, I don't know. I feel like this guy's at least fun. He can do some work, I think. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack that targets him is a 1 through 4, the attack fails and the attack sequence ends. So he only hit him ever on a 5+.
Yep.
And running death, while friendly Eshin units are wholly within 13 of him, they can shoot and or charge even if he ran.
Yeah, I mean, your Eshin units means night runners, but okay, cool. Thanks for that. Like this guy with the state of Eshin in the current Skaven book, he's a skip. He's 160 points. He has a bonus hero, which is nice.
Yeah.
So like he can go in anybody who can take an overclaw.
Yeah.
And he's like has some okay ranged attacks and he does some crit mortals, but no.
Yeah.
Like people will roll enough 5s and 6s, he'll die.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Claw Lord on the Gnaw Beast, one of our new boys. He's got a pistol, 10-inch shot, d6 attacks, crit auto wound, and it shoots in combat. The cornered rat, while he's damaged, you add 3 to the attack's characteristic of his warp forged halberd, which is the same as the Claw Lord on foot. And Cruel Commander, you in your hero phase, pick a friendly non-hero verminous infantry unit wholly within 13, inflict a mortal damage on the target, then add 5 to its control score until the start of your next turn.
Yeah, he's really strong control score manipulation. Not that you super need it, because you're going to be putting it on clan rats, which are probably already a big amount of guys.
Yeah.
They'll push giants off of their objective cap, right?
Yep.
But it's he's fine. I hate that they made this new awesome model and he's gorgeous, and I'm looking at him going like, okay. I mean, he's only 170, but he's not a bonus hero. Maybe in a Verminous build, maybe, but he's probably a skip, which is a real shame because he's just the coolest thing. I wish his Warforged Halberd had some kind of ability, because as it is, I'm just gonna like take the Warbringer, and that's just like a way better model for what I want to do in this army.
Yep. Absolutely. Grey Seer on Screaming Bell. It is a wizard 2. 5 up ward, 15 health, 4 up save. He has an attack profile. It is present. Peal of Doom. In your hero phase, you roll a die. On a 1, you inflict d3 mortal damage on itself. On a 2 through 4, you subtract 1 from hit rolls from combat attacks made by enemy units while they are within 13 inches of this unit. That's good.
That's really good.
It's really good. And 5/6, you roll a d3 for each enemy unit within 13. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. I feel like the 2 through 4 is better than the 5/6.
You don't feel like it. It is better. It's a continued journey that the people who write these rules don't actually understand what's good in their games. Because first of all, we need to go back to the 2d6 table. So there's an actual bell curve to it, a bell curve on the bell. Like really it's sitting right there, and they're very bad at designing scrolls with verisimilitude, but here we are. Obviously you just are praying to roll the 2 through 4. That's all you want. If you roll a 2 through 4, it's incredible what it does to your army. And if you roll the 5 through 6, you're sad because you do a little bit of mortal damage, and then who gives a crap? It's just a joke. That's a joke. Apocalyptic Doom, more like tinging bells that are minorly annoying. They way overvalue this ability. If this table was one, like there's a backlash and 2 through 4 neg 1 to hit, or 2 through 6 neg 1 to hit, I would be 10 times happier with this unit. That being said, he gives everybody a ward of 6 up around him. It's a really tight bubble, 6 inches, which is unfortunately tight, but it's a big enough base. You can still have quite a unit around there. He's good. He's good. I mean, the Gray Seer on Screaming Bell is 350. It's expensive but it is a wizard too. His spell is total garbage, just total garbage. But it doesn't matter. You're usually going to use him to power out endless spells and cast other appropriate things. He's probably too expensive for what he is, realistically. But again, if he could reliably have the neg 1 to hit, I would take him every time. The fact that you have basically a 50% chance to get the neg 1 to hit means he's like okay at best, because then you're just paying for a 6-up ward because his spell is crap, and then Peal of Doom does nothing in 50% of the cases. This is the issue.
So are you a buyer on this one?
Probably not. I mean, like, I'm sure I have played with him, and in rounds where he gets the Wall of Unholy Sound up, it's crippling, right? It's just crippling. There's so many 4-ups to hit in the world now. But okay. Like, he's so expensive.
Another lovely new model, the Rattling Warp Blaster, who does a whole lot of shots at 20 inches, 3d6 plus 3. 4/3s, rend 1 damage, crit auto wound. Overwhelming fire, add 1 to hit rolls for shooting attacks that target enemy units that have 10 or more models. Always solid, and once per turn in your shooting phase, more warpstone bullets. If this unit is within combat range of a friendly scryer hero, the unit's hail of warpstone bullets has an attack characteristic of 6d6 plus 3 instead of 3d6 plus 3. However, any unmodified hit roll of 1 inflicts a mortal damage on him.
In general, you're going to have like a single arch warlock or engineer or somebody standing in between this and your warp lightning cannon. Right. That's what's going to happen in your strong center. The warp blaster, this thing is 190, which is expensive. It's a little more expensive than it should be. But like, it does make a ton of shots, an absolute ton of shots. It will not kill itself super fast. So you make an average of 21 shots when it's empowered. Okay? So on average, you do about 3 mortals to yourself, 3.5 mortals to yourself every time you shoot.
Oh, no, it's 24. It's 66 plus 3. So it would be 21 for the 66 and plus 3 is 24.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yes. I'm undercutting it, but yes, 24 shots. So you'll do about 4 mortals to yourself. So again, you will tend to get 2 rounds of shooting out of this. All scryer shooting stuff that you overcharge gets 2 rounds of shooting. So you better make it count. It does take the buff well again. Okay. So again, goes to 3s and 2s really easy. And if you pop the extra rend, this thing really does work. The problem is it is only 1 damage. So, 1 damage is 1 damage.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
Correct.
But he's cool. I think he'll definitely end up in some lists.
Yeah, I like him. I played with him. He was fine. He did some good work. Both of my units obviously eventually killed themselves. That's what happens.
Yeah. Night Runners, 7-inch move. They've got their slings and poison stars, 10 inches. 2 attacks, force 4s, no rend 1 damage, crit auto wound, and shooting combat. And then they get their poison blades, 2 attacks, 4s, 5s, no rend, 1 damage, but crit mortals.
Yep.
And then this unit can use a normal move ability in your deployment phase, so he gets that like Vanguard move up. And then sneaky infiltrators. While each model in this unit is within 1 inch of any terrain features, this unit cannot be targeted by shooting attacks unless the attacking model is within 9 inches of it.
Yep. Again, so these guys are 10 for 130, which again is a little expensive for what they're doing. But they're fine as like you're taking them as a battle tactics unit. Because you're just setting them on the side of the board and just like they move up 7 inches and then they move up another 7. They can generally complete take the flanks and or take their land and stuff like that. They're really great take their landers because they can go pretty deep. So if somebody has like center castled or something, and you can get a hold of a piece of terrain, it's pretty easy for them to do that. So yeah, like again, they're how many points do you want to pay for a battle tactic or for 2 battle tactics? That's what you're doing here.
Yep, absolutely. All right, into the endless spells. The Bell of Doom. You subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target friendly Skaven infantry while they are wholly within 13 inches of this manifestation.
Yep,
that's good.
It's really good. The Bell of Doom rules cast on a 7. It does have a move score, so you have to set it up 9 inches away from enemies, but it doesn't matter. You're just going to put it behind, like you're going to put it behind your own line, and then just make somebody waste a banishment on it or something. It's fantastic. Like this is absolutely incredible. If you want to survive hits, this is how you do it. I should note that it's about the Skaven and where they are vis-a-vis this thing. So the -1 to wound will apply to shooting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just attacks that target infantry while they're wholly within 13. You're never going to use its dumb attacks. That's stupid. Its move is just to float around behind your units. Like it literally should attach to like your units of clan rats that are strong centering your army, and it becomes it's a model in that unit.
Yeah. And it's a pretty cool looking endless spell too. It's
neat.
Yeah, and it's never really seen play before. So, and it's going to be seen a lot now. Null Holes, we already talked about. Vermintide. He heals D6 at the end of every turn. 13 attacks, 5 5s, no rend, 1 damage, crit auto wound. I feel like this is mostly going to be throw it out and get in the way to make your opponent waste attacks to get rid of 13 health and just be a block in the way.
Sort of. Remember, you can't use spells like that anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
If you throw it out, all you're doing is giving your enemy an easy charge to then pile around and ignore things. Okay. So I think this one's most like you'll cast this mostly to put it on the side and let it be like something that's actually, if you can actually close off the space, this is a really big base. And on some of the terrain maps, you can like cast this over on the side of your army and fit it in between 2 pieces of terrain where they literally can't get around it. Right. So in that case, you can block, and it's over on the side, so it's stopping flanking from weaker units, right?
Yep.
If I can basically have it become a door on 2 pieces of terrain, I'll use it. Otherwise, it's pointless. It doesn't do anything. But yes, for that purpose, it will shut off flank attacks from weaker units, assuming you can like hold off between terrain.
Yeah, it's a nice utility piece, I think.
Yep.
All right, the Warp Lightning Vortex. You have to, let's see, multiple parts. When a number of damage points equal to the manifestation's health characteristic are allocated to the manifestation, it destroys all the parts.
Yeah, it's just saying it has 7 health, not 21. Yep. So, okay, let's talk about this thing. It does not have a movement score, so it can be set up literally in combat with enemies. Okay. Its pop, its actual bolts don't trigger. This went from the most commonly triggering manifestation to a manifestation that's very hard to ever make it do damage. Okay. Why this one has the roll a die and on a 4-up inflict D3 mortal as opposed to just the standard 2-up D3 mortals is very funny. Okay. And you can only trigger it if it hasn't been set up this turn. So basically, the turn you set it up, it does nothing as far as that goes, right? And you have to wait until the next hero phase. Now, it is any hero phase, right? So you can do it in theirs. Or if you cast this off turn, which is like, oof, that's a lift, but it's possible.
Yeah.
But it actually, if you can get it off, if you have the casts, if you're like near a place of power, if you've got a Gray Seer who can, I don't remember if the Gray Seer's Eat Rocks is on off turn, or he can only do it during his turn. I would need to remember. But anyways, if you can get it off turn, I just don't remember off the top of my head. It can be really strong to just suddenly set up in their hero phase where they don't have a chance to really attack it or banish it, right? Because we've already passed their casts at their banish time. Okay. Because its passive effect is subtract 2 from run and charge rolls while they're within 6 inches of the manifestation. Okay. And they take damage if they walk across it. Like, okay, sure. They just won't walk across it. It's not hard. But the -2 to charge is a pretty significant penalty. So like ideally in a perfect world, you're trying to get it off in the enemy turn and just kind of screw up their whole charge phase. Right.
Yeah.
Now they will just charge and kill this thing. Remember, by setting it up with them, it doesn't have a movement value. So it's not counting as anything during their movement phase. So they can just walk around it. Okay. And then if you leave a part of the triangle pretty deep, they'll just charge the far part of the triangle.
Right.
And then catapult themselves forward. And effectively, you'll counteract anything you thought you were doing with -2 to charge. Okay. Right. So you have to use this one very carefully. Honestly, the Bell of Dom is the best one in here. I would take this lore over the base lores potentially solely for Bell, because I think you need those. You're a very fragile army, and so being able to have that -1 to wound is actually really meaningful.
Yeah. All right, and that's it. That was the last War Scroll. That was a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
definitely
we got it through pretty reasonably.
Yeah, we got there. It was not the sort of length of show that you did the other night, going through all of the Order War Scrolls. Dear God. Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm feeling like this is going to be a fun army. Competitively, I don't know how good it's going to be. I think a lot of that is going to take some time to kind of shake out the meta and see what everything's doing. But I'm certainly looking forward to getting this on the table and, doing some crazy Skaven-y stuff again.
Yeah, what I'll say is for like Johnnies who want a lot of different builds, right?
Yep.
This actually has that potential still. You can build heavy into Scryer. You can build heavy into Molder. I think there's probably a Verminous build, though I haven't tested it yet. You can do some mixed stuff. You really, like I said, when you pick your faction, you basically only need to dedicate half your faction to that thing, and you'll still reasonably get the appropriate value out of it. So you've got some freedom. Your big characters are really expensive. You will still tend to be, if you really want to trip, you'll still tend to be a lot of drops. It is hard for this army to get into the 2-drop place, which is where you want to be. A lot of armies can easily get 2 drops with everything they want. That's very tough with this army. Your bonus heroes are generally pretty worthless, like your Deathmaster and your Claw Lord. You want the other stuff. But you've got a good amount of like magical power. Really, the big limitation right now is the fact that our priests are so stupidly expensive for how good the prayers are. It's really annoying. There needs to be a cheaper priest. Like we're in the ogre situation. I mean, ogre players are looking at me going like, oh no, because they've had to buy 340-point priests forever, right? Yeah. And so they're like, yeah, welcome to the party, pal. But that being said, it really is a great list building exercise. If you're somebody who likes the list building thing, Skaven really will be a rewarding army, because the synergies and the power pairing and the way the list works, and like a little bit of this for a little bit of that. They have a lot of different capabilities. They have a lot of different tricks. There's a lot of fun, different options you can sort of lean into. And overall, I think it's a very competitive army. I'm worried a bit Paul, that the right answer is just super heavy shooting.
Yeah.
I played that army. My opponent did not have a good game. It was not a fun time for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I just blew them to ribbons. Like, I just obliterated them. Okay.
Yeah. That we don't need another KO in this game.
Yeah. And I mean, the trick is like, my army was all the shooting units and then a gray seer and some clan rats.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you know, I was high drops, but I don't really care. I don't really care. Like, make me go first. Okay. That's fine. I can reach across the field, right? Like, I can start doing work on turn 1 easily. So I'm not really that worried about it. Like, I'll move up, move my strong center up, you know, bring myself into shooting range and just start doing work on the top of 1. Like, I don't care. And you know, with like a couple of Doom Flayers to go be your battle tactics guys, plus Skitter Leap, you can generally do things like take their land and stuff like that pretty easy on turn 1. So you don't need to do crazy suicide things. Yeah, it's a very powerful army. I think I had more fun playing my all Molder list than I did playing my all Scryer list. But I played those two and then a balanced list. I want to try the like heavy Verminous list and see if I can get there. But yeah, it's a great army. It's good. Honestly, it feels like maybe the top of like the middle pack where it should be. It's not busted sideways like Cruel Boys or Night Haunt or something like that. It's not the top of the heap, but it's strong.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it for this one. Thank you again for being on here with me, going through all of this Skaven-y goodness. So we're going to call it there. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you all later.